to me, the biggest assessment of sleep quality at night is energy and sleepiness during the day. I wrote about in my first book this very common little sleep tool called the Epworth, which is 8 questions. How likely are you to fall asleep talking to someone? How likely are you to fall asleep relaxing in the afternoon, reading a book, watching TV, sitting quietly in a public place, eating lunch, passenger in a car, or driver of a car? So you kind of take people through these common daily scenarios and ask them, how likely would it be for you to fall asleep? If the answer over and over is, oh my gosh, I fall asleep all the time watching TV. I can't stay awake in meetings. I'm not off driving. I fall asleep every week in church. Then that's telling me that either there is a problem with your sleep quantity. So that's an easy follow-up question. What time do you go to bed? What time do you wake up? Oh, Chris, I go to bed at 10, maybe 9. I'm usually out of bed at 7. Okay, well, quantity seems pretty good there versus, well, I work 2 jobs. And I try to get a little sleep in between job 1 and job 2. That usually works out to be about 4 hours. And then I'll try to catch a nap between job 2 and job 1. That's usually an hour, maybe a little bit longer the weekends when I'm off. Like, okay, so there might be a quantity problem there that's leading to that excessive sleepiness. But if there is no quantity issue, then it's almost invariably a quality issue.
Dr. Chris Winters, welcome to the Leader Entrepreneur podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, Paul. Appreciate it.
I'm delighted to have you. My research tells me you're a neurologist and a sleep medicine specialist with decades of experience and thousands of patients. Correct me if I'm getting anything wrong here. You've written 2 books, The Sleep Solution, The Rested Child, and you host the Sleep Unplugged podcast. So my first question is, as a doctor, where did your fascination with sleep come from?
Yeah, I suspect that I'm like a lot of people that decided to be a doctor before they really understood what that meant. Like as a young person, I grew up with parents who were both the first in their families to go to college. They were both school teachers. So I've always believed there's probably some sort of reinforcement, a loving reinforcement, but a reinforcement of, I'm sure at some point I came home and said I wanted to be a spy or a firefighter or a ninja. And that did not get much of a response. But when you come home and say you're going to be a doctor and you make pretty good grades in 3rd grade, a feedback loop gets established with everyone. And all you have to do is say it once to your grandparents that you want to be a doctor. And then, it becomes this kind of weird thing where you're a 7th grader and you're getting introduced to your grandparents' neighbors as, as my grandson, he's going to be a doctor, like maybe, like I will see, maybe pastry chef.
Yeah.
So you get to college and I didn't really know anything about that. Like I didn't have parents that were doctors. I wasn't exposed to it. So I, went to my biology advisor and he hooked me up with the doctor who was doing research, and he just happened to be doing research on sleep. And I liked it. I didn't think of it as a career, but I thought this is a lot of fun. It'll get me some research studies that might help me get into medical school. I like hanging out with this doctor, having a purpose, and so it was sort of this accidental thing that as time passed, I just never left. Like one thing led to another. I went from college to medical school and worked at the sleep center at the medical school I went to, and it was mentored by another incredible guy. And, so when I think about entrepreneurship or business or just passions and work, and I think mentoring is so important. Even if it turns out to be things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Most everything that we're trying to figure out has probably been figured out by somebody else. You just have to find that person and ask them the questions versus doing it all yourself, which you can do. So that was always something I wanted to pass on to my kids, which was when you go to school and you meet interesting people or professors or whatever, go talk to her, buy her a coffee and just take her up on her office hours, and don't just use office hours for complaining about the B+ that you think should have been an A-. Like that's okay. I did a fair amount of that, but just, talking to these people, they've got the keys to everything, the
Mm.
keys to the kingdom. You just have to, figure out what it is. And so these three mentors that I had in undergrad, college, and I did a sleep fellowship and was mentored by another fantastic guy. They just, everything I do is just plagiarism of those guys. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
and I don't lie about it. I don't think I've ever had an original thought. So anyway.
Well, yeah, Tony Robbins says success leaves clues, and he's very right about that. When you meet, I mean, what why reinvent the wheel? You can build
Yeah.
upon that. I mean, there's so many people. I mean, when you've mentors, no matter, I suppose, no matter what people teach you, you will bring your own personality, your interpretations to that. But why reinvent the wheel when you've people that meant you so well? But the thing is, I mean, studying to be a doctor is obviously takes a long time. It's very difficult. So you obviously had some degree of passion for this whole area of sleep. Uh, to stick with it for the is it 25 years or something you've been doing it now? Oh, and upwards and upwards. I'm trying to be kind to you. I'm trying to be
I
kind.
know it's shocking when you start doing the math. Yeah, I think in fairness, some of the passion, the stick-to-itiveness, the dedication comes when there is no plan B.
Mhm.
I never envisioned a situation where medicine wouldn't work out. And that's not because I was God's gift to medicine. Far from it. It just became something where when there is no plan B or you're lifting a weight without a spotter, you got to get the weight up, because if you don't, you're going to be sitting there a while with this thing on your chest. So, I mean, I think part of it was that, but I really like sleep. I mean, I think that when you find something you're passionate about, work does not become work anymore. It becomes feeding a curiosity and a passion, and that's not hard to do. So yeah, there were parts of training that were hard. Like, I did not enjoy my obstetric rotation that you have to do, but having figured out that I wanted to do sleep was sort of a blessing and a curse. I knew I wanted to do sleep, I think, probably before I went to medical school in some ways. So it was just sort of like, okay, let me get through this, get through this, get through this so I can do this thing, which I think was a mistake. I try to tell people I probably could have gotten a lot out of these things that I didn't think was. I mean, my mother was an English teacher. She taught seventh grade English. I tolerated English and history and all those things. I did well in them because I felt like I needed to do well to go to medical school. Got to get an A in English. But what I really need is science and math education. No, what I really needed was the ability to write and communicate. I don't use calculus.
No.
So it's, I think what I try to tell young people, every step along the way is valuable, and you got to do it. So why not get the most out of it rather than thinking about, I can't wait till 5 years when I've graduated from this and I'm done and doing this thing. That'll be great. Well, A, it probably won't be as great as you think it is. And B, there's something pretty great about where you are right now, or it could be, make it great. So I think that every little step along the way. So I kind of feel like I became an adult somewhere around the age of 32. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wish I could have those previous to 32 years back, because I think that, yeah, I mean, I made it through medical school and all that stuff, but I could have gotten even more value out of them rather than, okay, circle this date. This is when you get to become a doctor. Like, well, okay, but
It seems like if you want to explore sleep or what the lack of sleep is all about, medical school is probably the best place to go because you're going to get lots of first-hand experience. Or
yeah. If you want a personal
that's what
exploration
I mean, yeah.
of
You're
getting sleep, yeah, that's
personal
the place to go.
experience.
It's got a corner on that market. Maybe a young law clerk.
Yeah, maybe so.
I'm
Yeah,
trying to think of military. I think there's probably some pretty rough sleep situations in
yeah.
the military, but yeah, we would hold our own. And I say that a lot to people, that who struggle with insomnia, which is really more about a fear of not sleeping than it is truly not sleeping, which doesn't really exist in nature, that there was something very curative about medical school and residency and internships and all that stuff, which was you would just get absolutely annihilated from a sleep perspective and then take somebody's spleen out. Do you know what I mean? Like, so now, were you in the best shape to do that? Probably not, but you did it. Like you got through it.
Yeah.
So there is a lesson there that, yeah, I mean, it wasn't great and it was trying at times, but you can still get things done,
Really.
and so I think that there's a lesson there that, people say, well, I have a difficult night sleeping. I only get 3 hours of sleep sometime, which is probably not true. But let's say it is. You got 3 hours of sleep. Okay, so you got 3 hours of sleep. You can still get through the next day, And so it teaches you probably a strange optimism or confidence that can be helpful, which is, well, I'm going to go to bed at night. I'm going to sleep great or I'm going to sleep terribly, but I'll make it through Wednesday.
Hmm.
And then probably Wednesday will be better. So, so kind of versus, that sort of dwelling on, oh, I hope it doesn't take me 2 hours to fall asleep tonight. Like there were times in my career, like if you would guarantee me a 2 hour stint of sleep in my call room, I would have paid anything for it.
Yeah.
Like just give me 2 hours. I can conquer the world with 2 hours of sleep here. So I do think that it does teach a little bit about sleep in a weird way, but you probably do it a little bit more humanely and different.
Maybe so. Is being young a big part of that? I mean,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. If you or I went back and try and do that now, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think it works, does it? I say this a lot to the athletes that I work with, that it's a difficult conversation. If I'm sitting in a room with you, you're not looking at me thinking, oh, elite professional athlete. You probably, he looks like he runs and maybe lifts a little bit of weights, but there's nothing elite about me from an athletic perspective. So sitting and talking to an elite athlete and saying to them, let's optimize sleep, let's value sleep and prioritize it, et cetera, et cetera. There are athletes that doubt it. Like, why? I'm an elite athlete. I'm one of the best NBA players in the world. And to your point, my response is, yeah, you are, but you're 20.
Yeah.
My job is to keep you healthy and have you create the longest career that we can extract from your abilities. And by proxy, the longest amount that you're going to get paid. Because as soon as you get injured,
Now they're listening.
Like the gravy train is ended.
Yes, yeah.
So it's exactly what you're saying. I often say, look, the reason why you can stay up late playing video games and run around chasing women and going out is because you're 20 and your body forgives you a lot more. But sleep at any age, better sleep at any age is going to improve performance. It's just sometimes hard when you're at the top of the class to convince, well, how can I be better than the best, is essentially? Well, you can be. I mean, and then to me, it's more of an argument of longevity, because when 20 turns to 25 and 25 to 31, this forgiveness your body has theoretically of a bad night's sleep here and there is going to disappear rapidly.
I imagine also your recovery ability change.
Oh, yes.
I mean, if you're an athlete, a really important thing is you can recover from injury or overtraining, and surely lack of sleep is going to have a big impact on that.
Absolutely. It's that to me is what's essentially what sleep is. Yes, it'll improve your performance and your hand-eye coordination, speed and decision making, etc. But really what sleep is, if you're trying to quantify it in terms of an elite athlete, it's the ability to perform at that high level and turn around and do it tomorrow night or the next night and travel across the country and do it again and be consistent with it and have your sprint times and swim times and running times be pretty much the same, continue to improve, avoid illness and injury, recover from them quicker if you get them. You're 100% right. So I think that, it's a lot easier argument to make now than it was 15 years ago. I think most elite athletes understand that. And we all have experiences of a bad night of sleep or noisy hotel room, a delayed flight, and then what we feel like the next day. Um, and, I always think about that, particularly with like an Olympic athlete. It all boils down to this pole vault or this balance beam, or this swim.
This
You've been
moment.
training your entire life, and this competition comes around every 4 years. So how are you going to feel Tuesday morning on the 11th? It's just, I find that fascinating. Like, because I work out most days. And this past Sunday, I felt awful. I mean, I worked out, but it just was not there. And I always, whenever I have those days, A, I find it fun to try to work through it, see what happens. But B, I don't think I have the mental fortitude to show up to that once every 4-year event and just happen to feel like that and get through it.
Wow.
Like that would mentally destroy me. I'd be like, okay, I feel crappy, so I'm not going to do well, and blah, 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 and here we go. So I think sleep consistency can really push the odds in your favor that random Tuesday when you're trying to win this competition you've been training for 4 years, you're as good as you can be.
You've built up the credit. You have something in the bank. It seems to me that, and maybe it's just me, I'm going to see over the past 5 years or so, there's lots of experts talking about sleep, writing about sleep, yourself, Matthew Walker, other people. You go to lots of different podcasts, you hear people talking about sleep. And again, maybe it's just maybe it's the algorithm or the environment I'm in. I'm wondering, have we in recent years begun to have we discovered more about the importance of sleep in recent years? When I was a young man, I was like, I sleep and I'm dead type of a thing, But have
Yeah,
we
no,
discovered
I
that
think
that's
we
not the case?
absolutely have.
Then,
I think we're sort of in yes, I think the answer to your question is 100%. We have absolutely discovered things about sleep and continue to do it. It's a very hot topic. There's a lot of personal interest in sleep. I can see it even in the athletes that I work with, how I was received, 20 years ago and how I'm received now, meaning that I've got young athletes who, when I sit down with them, they're bringing sleep data from their own trackers and they're hearing things on podcasts and ask very high level questions. So the buy-in has really changed. And I think where we are now, I always think of research. I think all research is good in one way or the other, but I always think of research in science on a spectrum, meaning I'm certain that plants use chlorophyll to transfer sunlight and carbon dioxide into sugar and oxygen. I think if there's somebody on a podcast saying that that's not true, or we've been fooled by big chlorophyll over the past 10 years,
Yep.
they're crazy.
Yep.
The earth is round. Sorry if you think it's flat, it's round.
Yeah.
So I think of that on the far left of the spectrum, like the red area of the spectrum. Then you've got your red, orange, yellow, green, blue. So, a study of 10 people taking creatine that did this to their deep sleep. It's interesting and we should talk. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not their fault. They only had 10 people in the study and 3 dropped out or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I think that where we are right now is we are combining a high level of interest in sleep, a lot of communication. To your point, if I talk about sleep, the algorithm does something with that. It populates. I had a magazine editor one time tell me, if we put something about sleep on our magazine cover, we sell more magazines. 10 tips for your sleep, or, whatever. Unlock your sleep potential, biohack your abs, your sex, and your sleep. Boom, big selling magazine right there. So I think where we are right now is we may have a little bit of difficulty differentiating the chlorophyll science from the N of 7 science in a magazine that wasn't peer reviewed. We can talk about it. We just have to be very careful. I like science that has a lot of humility to it. And I think that sometimes humility doesn't translate well in a social media environment. You got to know it.
Yeah.
It is hot.
Yeah.
Stop avoiding fat. You should be only eating fat in your diet like the cavemen did.
No
And this is how
nuance.
you live to be 300. Like that kind of tone is a lot better than, hey, this is an interesting study. I don't know what to make of it, but we just need more research to figure out what, like, that's getting 100 likes or 100 views. They don't care about that, So, but I think that's an interesting environment. I'll take interest and maybe some skewing of data over disinterest because I see it in my own children. Like they care about their sleep now. And it's not because their dad cares. It's because, the conversation is sort of in their ear about sleep. And that's awesome.
One of the things that maybe it's confused me a little bit from listening to you on other podcasts and YouTube, etc., is that there seems to be a great. I suppose, like anyone, I'm trying to think, what's optimal sleep for me, and when I listen to you, it seems to be like there's no specific. You're not going to say, "Oh, Paul, it's easy. It's 8 hours." It's not, from your point of view. It's not as simple as that. It seems to be a very, very personalized thing. So if it's very personalized, how do I figure it out? Like if you said it was 8 hours, that's very simple. I can just go to sleep for 8 hours, but it's not quite that simple.
No, I mean, I always think about it like nutrition. I've never seen an article about nutrition that says this is what you should be eating to be optimally healthy. There's guidelines, minimize this and try to get more fiber. And I'm not a nutritionist. So, but nobody says 2,350 calories for you, guy, because you forget, there's a lot of questions to be asked. What do you do? I'm a distance runner. I'm a 20-year-old executive who, as soon as work ends, I start running and run about 10 to 15 miles a day versus same guy goes home and sits down and watches, TV. They're going to need different things. And so sleep's like that. So there's nothing wrong with an article or Matt talking about 8 hours in his book. It's 7 hours is the amount of sleep that's most tied to optimized health in an adult. 8 came from some bastardized research from many years ago that, again, we grab onto and it becomes gospel. There's nothing wrong with it. For the average person, so if we get 100 people in the room, there's probably a lot of them sleeping 8 hours and doing quite well. Where the problems come are the ends of the bell curve, the people who require fewer hours of sleep, maybe people who require a little bit more because of what they do or who they are. And so when we just put out information, it's really important for us to clarify, are we talking about averages? Are we talking about you specifically? And so I think where we go with medicine or science is start with an average.
Yeah.
Try 8, go to bed at 11, get up at 7. What do you find happening? It's perfect. I feel great. And my blood pressure is awesome. And my cholesterol is great. And my weight's incredible. And I've never lifted more in the weight room than I think you found it.
Yeah.
If it's, Chris, I tried to do this thing so I don't get dementia when I get older, and I'm going to bed at 11, get up at 7. I'm very disciplined about it. And it always takes me an hour or two to fall asleep. 8 might not be the number for you. It's sort of like I buy a pizza every night for dinner, but I only eat half of it before I get full. And I just throw the rest in the trash can. Why do you eat a whole pizza? Because my friend eats a whole pizza and he's a super healthy guy. Yeah, but it seems like your body's telling you don't want that whole pizza. Maybe just buy half of a pizza for dinner every night and see what happens. Like it's the nuance, the customization, the making something work for you at this particular age and stage of life you're in. I think that's where we kind of lose sight of things. And if we do, there's a large number of people who that starts to create an anxiety about their sleep. Okay, I'm going to bed at, trying to do this thing that this author told me to do. And it always takes me an hour to fall asleep. And oh my God, I read somewhere that if you don't sleep well, you get dementia. So it just becomes this kind of chaotic, fearful relationship that you have versus, I fall asleep or I don't. I get to my call room when I'm a resident or I don't. I hope I do. So I always tell people, the secret to great sleep is being happy in bed, awake, or being asleep. Who cares? Like resting is awesome for you. So trying to pull fear and anxiety out of the situation, I think is really step number one for a lot of people finding the right sleep for themselves. That's maybe a consequence of this heightened attention and excitement and chatter about sleep is you kind of feel like if it's not perfect for you, something's going wrong. And that can, in some people, really be a real problem.
When I hear you say that, what I wonder is how qualified am I, or anyone listening? So how qualified am I to judge whether or not I'm getting the right amount of sleep? Because clearly, I mean, there's lots of things we can talk about. Clearly, sleep is massively important. So I'm not a sleep expert. How qualified am I to make that decision that I'm getting it right? What are the markers I'm looking for to make?
Yeah, no, I think,
And am I qualified to make that decision?
yes, 100%. Now, can you be fooled? Yes. Can I be fooled? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every now and then you get some super healthy person in the sleep lab and you do a sleep study, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, it's the right thing to do, but they're going to be fine. And the sleep comes back disastrous. And you ask them, your sleep's a mess. Like, do you really not feel sleepy during the day? You feel as good as you say you feel? So I think sometimes perception of sleep and reality of how we feel can be divergent. But I think that we're all absolutely qualified to assess that. And, the answer to the question, what are the tools? To me, the biggest assessment of sleep quality at night is energy and sleepiness during the day. I wrote about in my first book this very common little sleep tool called the Epworth, which is 8 questions. How likely are you to fall asleep talking to someone? How likely are you to fall asleep relaxing in the afternoon, reading a book, watching TV, sitting quietly in a public place, eating lunch, passenger in a car, or driver of a car? No. So you kind of take people through these common daily scenarios and ask them, how likely would it be for you to fall asleep? If the answer over and over is, oh my gosh, I fall asleep all the time watching TV. I can't stay awake in meetings. I'm not off driving. I fall asleep every week in church. Then that's telling me that either there is a problem with your sleep quantity. So that's an easy follow-up question. What time do you go to bed? What time do you wake up? Oh, Chris, I go to bed at 10, maybe 9. I'm usually out of bed at 7. Okay, well, quantity seems pretty good there versus, well, I work 2 jobs. And I try to get a little sleep in between job 1 and job 2. That usually works out to be about 4 hours. And then I'll try to catch a nap between job 2 and job 1. That's usually an hour, maybe a little bit longer on the weekends when I'm off. Like, okay, so there might be a quantity problem there that's leading to that excessive sleepiness. But if there is no quantity issue, then it's almost invariably a quality issue. There's something going on with somebody. And so to me, that marker is really important because if somebody says, look, I'm getting 7 hours of sleep, I never nap, I don't fall asleep, even in the most boring, dark lecture halls, I don't nod off when I'm the passenger in the car, I rarely take naps during the day, then I'm getting the impression from this person that whatever is happening at night is doing a pretty good job of filling the sleep coffers. The tank is full.
Yeah.
So that you're not seeking more sleep.
Yeah.
And that's one of the unusual things, about insomnia patients who'll tell you, I'm lucky if I get an hour's sleep, or I've gone 6 months with no sleep. Okay. Let's pretend for a minute that was scientifically possible because it's not.
Humanly possible.
Tell me about your daytime. Do you nap a lot? Do you fall asleep in meetings, nodding off? And no, I can't nap. So you're saying to me, you're physiologically incapable of sleeping, essentially is what you're telling me, which is like somebody saying to you, about 6 months ago, I stopped breathing. I don't know what happened. It was just
drinking water. Yeah.
Or I had to stop eating, drinking water. Exactly. So, it's funny. I was thinking the other day, we used to think of hysteria. If you look up hysteria, it was the thought that within a woman, the uterus was just running around inside of her body, which is where hysterectomy comes from. Let's excise the hysteria from, So I love the fact that was the belief But nobody talks about, well, I've had a rough week. My uterus, I think, is just running around all over the place inside of me. Like, we've let that explanation go because it's absurd and makes no sense and kind of demeaning. But by God, we've hung on to can't sleep. It's been a rough 6 weeks. I just can't sleep. I've never been a sleeper. My mother couldn't sleep either. Like, we talk about that like it's just,
Yeah.
well, I'm a flyer. I can flap my arms and fly around the house. It's my dad could fly too. It's no big deal. Like, it's, he got a little bit heavy in his older age and lost the ability to fly. But up until his 50s, he was a flyer. Like, no, he wasn't. No human can flap their arms and fly around. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You don't sleep. Every human on the face of this earth sleeps. So where is this coming from? So to me, it's interesting that we have got all this information and dialogue about sleep, but there's certain pockets of my patient population or patient populations at all where it really hasn't penetrated that much. What has penetrated is, well, what do you think about this new CBD pill for sleep or this vibrating device I wear around my neck to make me sleep? Like, I don't know. Why do you think you need these? Well, I can't sleep. Well, sure you can. Where's that coming from? So it's a fantastically dynamic field full of strange paradoxes and confusion. So I couldn't be happier.
So
I'm digging shit.
Yeah. I'm wondering then what insomnia is, because obviously, look, clearly everyone sleeps because I don't know, you probably, maybe you can stay awake for 48 hours. I don't know what it is, but your body will eventually stop you to sleep. So is insomnia, but people must have a perception that they're not sleeping. Is it just I go to bed and I'm awake half the night, but they are sleeping? So at what point do I define myself as insomniac?
Yeah,
what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, you said a lot of really, really interesting things. Yeah, I always tell people sleeping and sleeping well are two different things. So when I say to a patient who has insomnia, oh, you sleep, I'm not saying you sleep well, but we've got to get outside of the bucket of what are you going to do to make me start sleeping because I can no longer sleep. That's a tough diagnostic and therapeutic bucket to be living in because it's not a true statement.
Yeah.
What are you going to do to keep my uterus from running around inside my body is tough because your uterus is not running around inside your body.
Yeah.
So to your point, perception is massive. So when somebody says to me, I don't care what you say, Chris, like I sleep an hour at night if I'm lucky, and it's been going on for 6 years, and it's making me dysfunctional. I hear that all the time. They're not lying. Like, that is their perception. Their perception is they get in bed and they're sitting there for 6, 7 hours. They fall asleep. They wake up an hour later. It's time to go to work. So it's important for patients to understand that our perceptions of sleep don't necessarily match up with reality. Everybody's watched a TV show, nodded off, woke up, didn't think you fell asleep, but when you rewound it, you're like, God, I don't remember any of this episode. Yeah. What the hell? Who's this person? Why are they sleeping with that person? Like, well, you missed it. That person showed up. It was a long lost lover, and they're just causing havoc in the neighborhood now because they're back. And there's still feelings for that. And you're like, well, but if you had asked me, tell me about the episode, I would have told you about it. Did you miss any part? No, I got some chips at one point, but I didn't miss any of that. That's how I felt. Like, so our perception, that amnestic event that goes along with sleep, can be really fooled, particularly in people with anxiety. So if you go to bed at night and there's a snake loose in your bedroom, you're probably not going to sleep well. And if you sleep, there's a very good chance you might say, I didn't get a wink of sleep last night because I'm worried that snake's going to climb up in my bed. When in fact, maybe you did sleep. And that's where fitness trackers and little sleep-worn wrist things and rings and there you go. Yeah, absolutely. I think the Whoop band's probably one of the best ones out there.
Yeah.
That they really do a great job, maybe not so much, although they're getting much better, at separating out stages of sleep.
Yeah.
But in terms of giving you an amount that you slept last night, they're pretty accurate. But they're really getting to be quite accurate.
The funny
So
thing is, I look at while I was waiting for you to come on, I opened up my Whoop to see how I slept last night, and it said 7 hours 23 minutes. I thought that's pretty cool. I wanted to ask you about the deep sleep because that's more. But then I said it said I went to sleep at 22:20 and going maybe that was about right. But then it said I slept until 7:19. Now I think I left the house this morning at about 10 to 7. So other, otherwise,
so yes,
otherwise I wouldn't have known. And I go, no, I
that's
was,
pretty. That's surprising that usually when there's big movements like
yeah,
that,
I
it
don't know
gets
how
figured out.
it got with
But
that.
but
Yeah,
that's what I always tell patients is yes, if you're in a car, I believe you.
yeah,
But when somebody says 7:19, but this thing doesn't work, Chris, I was awake all night. No, you weren't. No,
yeah.
you weren't. And so a lot of people are throwing their Whoop bands in the trash because they wake up and they're like, I didn't sleep at all last night. Your wife says, yes, you did. And your Whoop band says, yes, you did. And you get frustrated. You're like, well, this thing doesn't work. It says I was awake thinking about stuff all night long. And they throw it in the trash. So I hope that as time passes and we get more understanding of how good these things are, that there can be a real anxiety lowering and reassurance with these devices. And I tell patients all the time, your job when you wake up is you write down on a piece of paper or a little journal, how much did you sleep? Okay, 1 hour. Okay, great. Now look at what your Whoop band says. Ooh, 7:19. Right. That is the reason why you don't nap. You never fall asleep in a public place. You know, your family's like, he's not sleepy. We all fall asleep during movies he picks. He never does. Right. Because you are sleeping. Now, once you get to the
That
point
person
where
has a
someone's
perception
accepting
that,
that, treatment becomes a whole lot easier.
yeah,
And your definition of insomnia is a two-part definition. It's sleep not happening the way you think it should. That's
yeah,
part A. Part B is you're upset, anxious, frustrated, angry, fearful, whatever about number one, meaning that I will go to bed at night, I will fall asleep right away, or it'll take me 5 hours to fall asleep. I don't care. I like being in bed awake. That is, I've got lots of anxieties in my life. Being in bed awake is not one. I love it. I like being in bed awake. So there's no fear there. Regardless of what happens tonight, I really don't care. And when you get to that place, you're kind of bulletproof when it comes to insomnia because the only thing insomnia has to perpetuate insomnia is fear. You got to kind of like, oh God, here comes the night. Oh, I hope do I
yeah.
have enough pills?
Stability on
What
the,
will happen if I got a big date, a big meetings tomorrow? What if I don't sleep? And like, it needs that to perpetuate itself. And when you take that away from it, like, shit, I'll be awake all night. I don't care.
you want people
Go
to
for
chill
it.
about their sleep.
Whatever. Like, fine. You know, then it just kind of loses its bite.
I found that since I got the Whoop band was a present from my wife for Christmas, and I would have always been one of these people that when I wake up, and I would wake up, early in the morning, maybe 6:37. I'm one of these people wake up, get up.
Mhm.
I've been changing that habit since I got the Whoop because I'm going to maybe I'm not getting enough sleep. So for example, it said last night I'd an hour and 25 minutes of restorative sleep, but only 20 minutes of deep sleep. So I'm reading all these things, which I fucking know. I have no idea what they mean. So I mean, I was one night over the weekend. One night I woke up and it's bright here, and I whatever it was, I don't know, it was 6:30 or something. I woke up 12 months ago. Before I got this, I would have gone, "You're awake, Paul. Get up, get on with the day." And now I'm going, no, I need to. So I put on an eye mask so I could get another hour's sleep. Um, I don't know. No, I don't
And I
make
think
any
that's
sense.
good. I mean, I think that if you said, look, I'm waking up at 6, I put the eye mask on, and then I just sit there for an hour,
Yeah,
you could say, number one, resting for an hour is great.
yeah,
Whether you fall asleep or not, the resting is awesome. But if somebody says, yeah, I've kind of gotten into this habit now when I wake up at 6:30, I put a mask on and I can usually go back to sleep for an hour, that means something. It's sort of, I usually stop at 2 pieces of pizza, but if somebody hands me a third, could you eat it? Oh yeah, easily. Well, then you're probably not full.
yeah,
So I think that the concern I would say the two questions are number one, how does it make you feel the next day? Since you've been doing that and adding an hour, so you've gone from maybe 6.5 to 7.5 hours of sleep, do you feel better? Do
No,
you have more energy during the day, or you're concentrating, a little bit less likely to get angry over a small thing, or you don't really see much of a difference at all?
I don't know any. I mean, I don't know any. I don't notice any difference at all. But maybe, yeah, but maybe someone listening would use it as an interesting point. And I was out over the weekend with a couple of friends, and one just in conversation was talking about the fact that he'd gotten up and gone play. He'd gone up at 7:30. No, he'd gone playing golf at 7:30. Played for 3 or 4 hours. I had gone out on my bike and ridden relatively hard for 3 hours. Um, would never cross. I came home, had a sauna, had a shower, etc., etc. Would never cross my mind to sleep. But he told me he went back to bed for the afternoon, and I was going, "What? Why would? Why? I would never think of doing that." But I suppose he's following. He's following what's right for him. I suppose.
Yeah, the concern would be, is there dysfunctional sleep that's leading to an increased drive to get more of it? So if somebody says, I'm getting 6.5 hours sleep and I feel great, and when I try to take a nap in the afternoon, try to sleep in, I can't,
Yeah.
then I think you're probably in a good spot as long as you feel okay. Where I worry about is somebody getting 7 hours of sleep at night, gets up, plays some golf, and then sleeps another 5 hours during the day. I'm concerned for two reasons. One, why do you need so much sleep?
Yeah.
That's a lot of sleep, that you're getting. So are you trying to compensate for poor quality sleep with more quantity, as a lot of guys do who have sleep apnea?
Mm.
Number two, I worry when somebody says they take the big nap in the afternoon, what happens the next night? If the answer is, oh, I fall asleep no problem at 9 o'clock, even after a 3 hour nap, that's a red flag. Oh, wow, you're so sleepy, you can sleep for 3 hours during the day, wake up, get some dinner, go right back to sleep for the entire night. Again, why is your body looking for so much sleep? That's a little concerning to me. It's like you've developed a hole right here underneath your chin.
Yeah.
Because I can eat a whole dinner and an hour later eat another whole dinner, right? Because as you eat the dinner, it's falling out of the hole under the ground. You're not getting the benefit of that food, even though from the distance it looks like somebody's eating. So I worry about that. I also worry about the scheduling aspect, which is why I always tell people retirement is the worst thing for sleep. Get up, feel a little tired during the day. Oh, you take a 3 hour nap. Why not? And then you get ready to go to bed that night. You don't feel tired because you just took a 3 hour nap during the day. Well, I'll stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning. Then I get up at noon. Then I go play golf. Then I take another 3 hour nap. Then I stay up till. So now there's no guardrails to your sleep. That's why I like kids and a job. I had a terrible night's sleep last night, but I still have to get up and go to my job and get my kids on the school bus or whatever.
Yeah.
So always trying to keep, those kinds of guardrails in your life are important. When people retire, the kids are gone, nothing stopping you from taking a 3 hour nap. I don't always think that's the best thing you can be doing from a consistency. And one of the things that's really coming out of sleep research recently is, yes, there is sleep quantity, and yes, there is sleep quality. But one of the things that's really being shown time and time again is sleep consistency really makes a difference in our health. And when our sleep is inconsistent, our exercise is inconsistent, and our meals are inconsistent, and our light exposure and social interactions are inconsistent because we're up and down all over the place. If I wake up at 6, I'll get up and have breakfast, a cup of coffee. But sometimes I'll sleep in until 1 o'clock in the afternoon if I'm tired. Well, then you're not getting food until 1:30, when you wake up. That's very confusing to your brain. So try to keep that kind of, I don't know, military existence. You're up at 600 hours on the bike, and then you come home, have your breakfast and your yogurt and your bagel, and you try to get another little stretch in around lunchtime, and your dinner's always at 7 o'clock, and you watch your TV show at 8, and you're in bed by 10. Like, I like that kind of routine because our bodies and our brains specifically love it. They love anticipating rather than reacting.
So when you talk about sleep consistency, are you suggesting is the same sleep routine 7 days a week? Like we should aim to be getting to bed the same. I mean, I don't know about you, but my weekends tend to be different.
Yeah, and mine are too, but not dramatically.
Yeah.
Like I'm up and usually going because both my wife and I have jobs, we work.
Yeah.
So I'm usually up and going a little bit before, usually around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And that's about the time we get up. We might stay a little longer in bed or have
Yeah.
coffee in bed and
Yeah.
talk in the morning. But
You've woken.
it's not like we're getting out of bed at noon
Yeah.
on Saturday. It's still pretty regular. We try to keep, and we have dogs. Dogs are sleep's best friend, man's best friend and sleep's best friend, because they don't care about the weekend. They want their foods at certain times and walks at certain times. And so I find them to be kind of delightful in terms of, I wouldn't have exercised today, but they're standing by the door and it's sleeting, and they're like, okay, well, here we go. Let's go take them on their icy walk. Although I live in Florida now, so that's radically changed my enthusiasm for their daily dog walk, for the positive. So yeah, I mean, I think that anything we can do to kind of build that in, so you can be retired and have a fun life and do all the things you want to do. Just schedule all the fun things. Try to have a routine for them.
And try and get to bed similar time and get within a window anyway. If someone is listening to this and they are generally struggling with the sleep, well, one of the things I'm taking away from this is that I can probably, if I take a cold look at my day, I can probably recognize whether or not my sleep is relatively
I
good.
think so, yes.
If I wake up at 6 a.m. and I'm pretty much have energy all day long, and then as the evening comes, I feel tired when I go to bed, that's probably suggesting I have a good sleep routine no matter
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
If someone is finding themselves that they are falling into this area of being tired and they don't think they're sleeping well, what are some of the habits that have proven to help that?
Yeah, I think one thing really quickly too, is you're assessing yourself. I always find it to be helpful for patients to try to, who feel tired, to ask themselves, do I feel more of a fatigue, like low energy, like you've got the flu? Where, or you always describe it, you take a long bike ride, a hard bike ride, and now you're done. And you're pulling into your driveway and you're done with your big bike ride, and your other friend calls and says, man, I really want to go on a bike ride. Do you want to go on a big bike ride? And you're like, oh,
Not happening.
I do, but I don't have the energy to do it because you called me right at the end of a big ride. So maybe tomorrow, but I just think I'm too taxed to do it now. I don't have it in me to do the ride you want to do. You're not saying no to your friend because you worry you'll fall asleep during the ride. You're not sleepy. It's more of an energy, a fatigue situation. So I find it really helpful for people who are struggling to ask themselves, am I more fatigued or am I sleepy? I cannot stay awake during a meeting. I am taking a class on Renaissance art, and I have to get up and walk around during the class because if I sit down, I'll fall asleep as soon as the professor turns the lights out. So I do think that differentiating fatigue and sleepiness can be helpful because sleep disturbances generally lead to sleepiness. I can give you a million causes of fatigue: A for anemia, B for B12 deficiency, C for COVID, D for depression, testosterone, thyroid. There's a million of them. They have nothing to do with your sleep, but make you feel like crap. So in terms of you've got something going on with your sleep, what are the things that really help? I think that, we always talk about sleep hygiene. I think sleep hygiene is great. It doesn't really tend to help a lot of things. There's not a lot of people I meet who are struggling with their sleep who, when I say, is your bedroom dark, quiet, and cool? They're like, no, I thought it was supposed to be hot, loud, and, uncomfortable. Oh, I didn't know. I had no idea we should turn the lights out and make it quiet and cool. Like, I had no clue about that. I was playing loud music. So everybody knows this kind of stuff. So it's not really going to be the solution any more than I want to be an elite biker. So I bought the best bicycle I could find, and now I'm an elite biker. No, you're a inexperienced biker who now has more bike than they know what to do with. That does not make you an elite biker. So you've set the stage. Maybe you'll grow into it, but it itself is not doing anything for you. I think consistency with your sleep is really important. And I really like patients to focus on the wake time more than the bedtime. Meaning that if you decided 11 to 6 is your schedule, I need you out of bed by 6 a.m. or earlier every day. Yeah, but what if I have a bad night? Doesn't matter. You get out of bed at 6 o'clock, like you're in the military. That drill sergeant does not care you had a tough night. Oh, you're anxious? Oh, I'm sorry you're anxious. Oh, can I skip out on today's, exercise, Sarge, because I had an anxious night, didn't sleep that well. No, sorry you had an anxious night, but you need to get up and join the rest of your little battalion here out in the parade grounds. We're going to run and do push-ups till you throw up kind of thing. So having that set wake-up time is important because it's telling your brain, do what you want to do. The day starts at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And that's really important because our brains are very simple. They want food, oxygen, a little bit of water from time to time, and sleep. And when you start taking it away in one place, it'll create a drive in another. So you go to bed at 11, you got some things on your mind, you don't fall asleep until 1, the alarm clock goes off at 6. Yes, now you've slept from 1 to 6, you've gotten 5 hours of sleep. It's not a tragedy. You'll do fine on 5 hours. And my guess is when it's time to go to bed the next night, if you keep to that plan, you'll be ready to sleep.
You'll fall asleep.
Throw a bike ride in there. Yeah, you'll be ready to go. And so very quickly you start to begin to discover or even rediscover the confidence that sleep didn't promise you that it would be there every night, but by and large, on average, it's always going to be there. Just like, have you always eaten lunch at noon every day of your existence? No. And sometimes you're not hungry or you forget or you eat a huge lunch and then you end up not eating a big dinner because you had such a big lunch with your friend. Like we forgive appetite in a way that we do not forgive sleep. And I think that when you learn that control the variables you can control, bedroom's dark, quiet, cool, you have a nice mattress, it's, not a lot of alcohol and caffeine before you go to bed. And you ask yourself a simple question, 11 o'clock, are you sleepy? No, I'm not sleepy. Then stay up. But when 6 o'clock rolls around, you get up and start your day. I think, build in your exercise, consistency with your little time cues during the day. And if you're feeling like, well, I've done all that stuff, Chris, and my sleep's still not great. I wake up a lot. I snore. I stop breathing. I'm tired. Then go see a sleep specialist. Like you've earned it. You've done all the things you can do. And now at this point, you need to talk to a specialist. Like your knee hurts. You wrapped it in ice. You took some time off of running, blah, blah, blah. And now you got new inserts for your shoes. My knee still really hurts. Go see an orthopedic doctor. Fine.
What about sleep? What about people who take sleep medication ongoing? Is that
why?
helpful? Why? Yes, they need to address the sleep problem. Is really
so what's really interesting is nobody needs a pill to sleep. You need a pill to sleep like you need a pill to get hungry for dinner.
Yeah.
And you can be like, well, and somebody's listening to this podcast right now and saying, well, bullshit. Like maybe for most people, but I can't sleep without a pill. Of course you can. There's nobody who can't sleep without a pill. And what's more is like, don't even take my word for it. What pill are you taking? Look up the research on it. If it's an FDA, well, you're in Ireland, but if you're in the United States, if it's an FDA approved drug for sleep, look at the data that was submitted to the FDA to get that drug approved for sleep. It's going to look like the drug probably did not help you fall asleep any faster than a placebo and resulted in an additional 7 minutes of sleep. That's sort of the average when you look up these studies. Maybe it made you fall asleep 4 minutes faster or 11 minutes of sleep. So if somebody says, look, Chris, I'm looking for a pill. I'm a super elite, person, and I want 11 more minutes of sleep that I'm getting right now. Well, sure, take the pill. But that's not why most people take these pills. 99% of people are taking it because they can't sleep without it. There's never been any study that shows that this drug is making somebody who can't sleep. And more importantly, put that aside. Why do you take the pill? Well, I take it because I can't sleep. Well, then stop taking the pill. Oh, I'd love to, Chris, but I've got this big job as a lawyer, as an accountant, as a teacher, a professor, an astronaut, a baseball player, whatever. And my job is so important and the demands are so high, I have to be at my best. So I don't want to take this pill, but I feel like I need to be at my best for this job. So what you're saying is that your belief is that pill is making you perform better the next day than you would without it. There has never been a study that I have ever seen that shows a performance value to a sleeping pill. In fact, while you're looking for that study that doesn't exist, I'll show you a bunch of that show that the pill is making your performance worse. It's sort of like bourbon. Like bourbon's a good sleep aid if you're defining sleep aid as speed to unconsciousness.
But not quality sleep.
But it's not making your sleep quality better, nor do these sleeping pills we're talking about, nor do they make you perform any better. Well, Chris, I tried to stop taking it and I couldn't sleep. Well, what do you think that is? Why do you think that is? It's anxiety. It's a performance anxiety. What if I told you that I snuck into your house a month ago, took your sleeping pills, and substituted them with little pretend pills that looked just like your sleeping pill? You'd never know the difference because they're not really doing anything. And again, that's not a hot take. Look up your pill. Look up the research on it, if you can find it. I mean, the number one sleeping pill in the United States is trazodone. It's not a sleeping pill. It's an antidepressant that is sedating. So if the solution to sleep problems are sedation, you're in big trouble.
Yeah.
Because, and that's, sleep's hard. You have to dig into it. It takes time to get outside this. And that's where the fear becomes. It takes a certain degree of courage to say, I've been taking this Valium-like drug for 15 years. Tonight I'm not. That's scary. I get it. So it's a multi-layered onion that needs to be peeled there. But I can tell you, when I talk to people on the other end, they're always better off their sleeping pills they were on it.
Wow.
So anyway.
I'm conscious of our time and I want to respect your time, but if I can ask one question before we wrap up.
Sure.
You also wrote a book called The Rested Child, and I'm wondering, fundamentally, is sleep different for children than adults, or do we need to have a different level of awareness in relation to kids?
It's different, kind of academically different. They sleep longer. They typically have more deep sleep, et cetera. So don't compare your own Whoop Band deep sleep to your kid's deep sleep. It'll be depressing.
True.
I think where we run into problems with kids and sleep is that every parent wishes their kid to sleep well and take good naps and sleep in on Saturday and not wake them up too early. So I do think that we misdiagnose and misdiagnoses in this population of kids, because your kid goes to bed early, he sleeps solidly through the night, he's excessively, he takes great naps. That seems awesome, but as kids get older or they're falling asleep in school and things like that, we're just not great at diagnosing sleep disorders in kids. We jump far too quickly to mood disorders and disorders of attention like ADHD. So I always tell parents, if your kid is struggling with mood disorders or struggling with attention problems, consider a sleep evaluation, not even a sleep test. Just maybe talking to a sleep doctor. Worst case scenario, you go see the doctor and they're like, you know what? I don't think there's anything going on here with their sleep.
You've ruled that out.
In my chair, a lot of times you fix the sleep problem and those psychological, attention, concentration, those things disappear, or at least get significantly easier to manage.
Chris, it's been a fascinating conversation, and I kind of, I suppose, sleep is really important to us all, so we're all going to be fascinated. And I really feel like we have only just scratched the surface. So I want to thank you for your time. I would point people to your book, The Sleep Solution, The Rested Child, but also you have a podcast called the Sleep Unplugged podcast. I will put links to all of those. And I think if people want to learn more about sleep and dig into, I imagine there's going to be so many questions. People think, why didn't he ask that? That's because, well, this is not Joe Rogan and we don't have 3 hours. So
nobody wants to listen to me for 3 hours. That's for sure.
That's the way it is. So I'll put links in there. Where else can people find you, Chris, if they want to learn more about the work you do?
I think that's enough. I'm on Instagram. That's probably the instant Dr. Chris Winter, like Dr. Chris Winter. I'm on. So I try to put good things on there. I just posted something about why do we have body temperature as a vital sign, and not a question about sleep. So I was happy with that post. So I try to put some good sleep stuff on Instagram, so you can follow me there if you want to. That's enough. I'm easy to find.
Well, thank you for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. We will stick all the links, and I hope the listener has got as much out of it as I had. Dr. Chris Winters, thank you very, very much.